All right, we've got a Trump trial wrap up here. So far this week, it was mainly Mr. Pecker on the stand, Mr. David Pecker, the publisher of National Enquirer AMI Media. Mr. Pecker was asked flat out about the meeting in 2015 with Michael Cohen and Donald Trump. This meeting was specifically to discuss stories that have been popping up, one being from a doorman at Trump Tower who actually is very good friends with a woman who Donald Trump allegedly impregnated. So he was paid $30,000. The story was given an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, as well as exclusivity contracts. Now, that was David Pecker's specialty, catching these stories, protecting him to the point where if these people took these stories to other media outlets and sold them to another or gave them to another or talked about it, they would be sued for millions and millions of dollars. So this doorman accepted it, signed it, and it was done. He did a very similar thing to Karen McDougal for $150,000. Now, while on the stand, he admitted that these practices were done in the past, but never in the history of David Pecker's professional career did he give any candidate the opportunity to review and approve or disapprove of negative stories, or any stories at that matter. Nor did he ever give the candidate an opportunity to invent negative stories, negative publicity about competitors in the political sphere. He flat out said that. They asked him, prior to the arrangements in the meeting at Trump Tower at 2015, did you ever preview with the candidate positive stories about that candidate or negative stories about the opponent? David Pecker said no, so he has never done that. He also asked, did you ever allow candidates to accept or reject articles? He also said no. Prior to the meeting, AMI ever agree to be the eyes and ears for a specific candidate and or person? The answer was absolutely no. So the narrative that this is something that was done on a regular basis by AMI was blown out of the water by David Pecker's own testimony. Now, he admitted that he became the eyes and ears for the Trump presidential campaign. He admitted to specifically seeking out negative stories in reference to Donald Trump, and he also admitted to letting Donald Trump and his team create a narrative such as Ted Cruz's father was complicit and co-conspirator in having JFK assassinated. He did things like that across the board. So David Pecker had zero intention on running these stories, even though the stories about Donald J. Trump would have made AMI, the National Enquirer, tens of millions of dollars because of the value of the headline. That is something that was very, very important to newspapers all over the place. So the newspapers would have run these stories if it had anything to do with anybody else. That is very important to keep in mind because that is actually the criminality of this entire case, of that it was done specifically to influence the election. They asked him flat out what the purpose of this was going on. Why was he doing this? If it would have made him money, and he killed it. Why did he do that? Was it about Melania Trump? And he said no. There wasn't any discussion about Donald Trump's worries of whether or not it would hurt Melania or the rest of his family. It was specifically to influence the campaign and keep negative information from the public sphere that would negatively impact his run for president. He also, at the same time, was trying to delay the payment of $140,000 to Stormy Daniels till after the election, essentially to screw her out of the money, which was one of the reasons why Michael Cohen took out a home equity loan on his own home to pay her the $140,000, and that was arranged by Emil Bobé, helped him arrange that. Another testimony that went on this week is Rona Graff. Rona Graff was Trump's personal assistant. She was actually in charge of just about everything with paperwork and all that other stuff. She testified that Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal's personal information was actually in all of his laptops, computer, everything he had, not only as the excuse for apprentice being contestants on The Apprentice, but it was specifically for the personal relationship between them both. That was also brought out. So this is one of those things. It's we've got everybody flat out admitting that this was done to influence the election. Donald Trump admitting that he created stories to David Pecker. I mean, he hasn't taken a stand yet, and I doubt he will after all of this. But we still have Stormy Daniels' testimony coming up. We have Karen McDougal's testimony coming up. We have Hope Hicks' testimony coming up. We have, of course, Michael Cohen's testimony coming up. And there's a total of 20 people that are going to testify. And the first 3 people who took the stand spelled out the guilt and the criminality of this case. Everything else is just going to be supporting evidence. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to get worse for DJT. This is in the eyes of a court. It is a state case, not a federal case. He cannot be pardoned from any verdict in this case. It is something to pay attention to, and it's going to get better and better because he keeps getting things knocked into him and more cases launched, more indictments coming. There's going to be another case coming out of New Jersey for another documents case. And we also have Fani Willis's case in Georgia coming through this summer. So this will not stop for Mr. Donald J. Trump. He has to sit there. And despite his excuses of wanting to be at Barron's graduation, even though, I don't believe Barron is his child. That's just, who knows, looks an awful lot like the tennis pro that supposedly had an affair with Melania. Would you blame her? But anyway, and he's never been to any of his children's graduations. He's not that type of dad, and he wasn't about to start now, especially with the paternity question of Barron Trump. He also talked about missing his wife's birthday, yet never even expressed a happy birthday publicly again, like last year and the year before. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. The drama and the lies will never stop, but the evidence is all there, and the people he thought that would come out and testify on his behalf are actually telling the truth, and it's working against him. We still have the documents case in Florida. We still have the Jay Sticks case. We still have a lot more coming down the pike. Stay diligent, stay educated, be kind. We are all in this together. And have faith, ladies and gentlemen. Justice is coming. God bless.